One of the worst things to happen to modern entertainment is the Gen Z fieldsification, where every awesome franchise of yesteryear is turned into a shared emotional drama with vibes and interpersonal learning outcomes. You see, modern society is full of pressures, political tensions, low-level trauma, difficult questions of identity, and loneliness that leaves many among Gen Z feeling a wistful fatalism, yearning for feelings-driven solidarity. So the obvious and sensible thing to do would be to take that mentality and apply it wholesale to franchises like Alien, Star Trek, and Predator, irrespective of whether it is absolutely mental.
I'm disappointed in your species.
Alien Earth's marketing felt pitched to a generation raised on Stranger Things rather than Ridley Scott's industrial existentialist nightmares. We got teenish protagonists, interpersonal trauma foregrounded, and the monster as metaphor for feelings. In Terminator, the Netflix anime, the whole premise shifts from machine apocalypse as techno-capitalist dread to young survivor grapples with identity, destiny, trauma, and feelings while killer robots express themselves. The Lord of the Rings Rings of Power was Gen Z-ified through Tumblr dialogue tone and central heroines written like inspirational Pinterest posters. Star Wars The Acolyte was the gold standard of mimsy Gen Z conviviality, millennial TikTok effect grafted onto space monks. Doctor Who, once eccentric, adult, and metaphysical, is now hyper-affirming carnival, where the Doctor gives you a pep talk to reclaim your inner sparkle. Marvel's Ironheart was a feelings-adjacent Tumblr diary with flash-animated quip. The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, was reframed for TikTok aesthetics, prestige YA tragedy, toxic love story discourse. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, a franchise about absurdity and New York sarcasm, becomes a group therapy session with proton packs. Every character has a moment of heartfelt disclosure. The ghost is a metaphor for anxiety now. And Star Trek Academy, where the intrepid adventures and philosophical inquiry of the earlier films and series gives way to a teen drama that's all about the feels and will involve toe-curlingly mawkish and overwrought emotional admissions and tears in hallways. And now, it finally happened. They came for my Predator. The original Predator is one of the most remarkable films ever made, in that there is nothing close to it in terms of tonal shift and pure visceral escalation. Something that starts out as a kind of generic 80s testosterone-driven action drama with comedy elements shifts through 2 or 3 more gears into a hypnotically kinetic sci-fi horror. The Predator is a tour de force of visual and practical effects, packed with innovations and radiating menace. In this new effort, the first in the Predator series to get a PG-13 rating to make it available to a family market, the Predator is the good guy. He's the guy we're rooting for, shunned by his father as the runt of the litter, who goes to a planet with the most dangerous creature conceivable to try and prove his worth. Predator Badlands is produced and distributed by 20th Century Studios, i.e. through Disney. The same Disney who last month openly fretted and tied knots in their handkerchief about their need to figure out how to appeal to the demographic of young men they've lost in droves in recent years. Against that backdrop, they produced a Predator with insecurities. They made a Predator with daddy issues. They made a Predator high-strung about his masculinity. They made a Predator film that is an odd couple buddy comedy. While this Predator literally beats around the bush, I'm figuratively not going to. Let's call a spade here. They made the Predator a pussy.
Fuck.
So why does Gen Z writing do this? In entertainment, catharsis used to be more external, a hero's journey, the callow, not properly formed youth, not properly in control of his emotions or abilities, would go through rites of passage, the crucible of adversity, and emerge into a catharsis of identity, more fully formed, balanced, self-possessed, and of better utility to society. In modern entertainment, there seems to still be some of that on the surface, but the main catharsis is depicted as one of emotional restraint or repression, or muddled and unacknowledged and unprocessed emotion being brought out into the open, processed in the open, and given authenticity by being shared with others, so that arriving at one's truth is the ultimate catharsis for a character. This is annoying as all shit, because it's boring watching people go through an emotional process of self-realization that's not often really tethered to the escalating drama and tension and stakes of the narrative. And it's also backward-facing narratively, a character's backstory, the things that accrued in the past to make them insecure and thus withheld from their authentic self, is by nature removed from the unfolding narrative of what's at stake in the here and now. And there's also something gratingly flaky about the idea that self-revelation and acknowledgement, like a kind of bullshit New Age spiritualist view of the self, is ideal, when really some discretion and filtering and layering is good for a persona. That standing bravely exposed in one's truth, actually, rather than taking courage, kind of has an undertone of narcissism to it, because even in its being framed as warts and all self-exposure, it has a preening sense of self-regard, that I am deserving of acceptance because I have learned to acknowledge and love and forgive myself. Shut the fuck up and fire the photon torpedoes, you sniveling, chubby dipshit. Insecurities, baggage, and trauma have gone from being fiercely private things, wrangled with and come to terms with by previous generations, to something almost like a shortcut to empathy and rapport for Gen Z. It's a means to solidarity. It is a means to bonding. It is a wonky and, in my view, inappropriate means to breaking down divisions and misalignment of personalities. Equally annoyingly, it is often posited as the root cause of constructed identity. You have a stoic, unforthcoming, subdued and reserved, brooding masculinity, an aversion to other types of people, rooted in a real masculinity, with real masculine traits and proclivities. No, you don't. Your character has taken these on as affectations, as personal protection, as constructed layering, and the real you, the cathartic, true, and ideal you, will be the one divested of all that self-protecting, but ultimately self-defeating and stymieing layering of false masculine posturing and bravado, after you've undergone your process of emotional catharsis. The real you is a more nice, calmer you, one who can be brought into the self-deprecating, unthreateningly convivial, and benignly lightweight fold. Yay. You see, under our ambition, our social standoffishness and awkwardness, we're all sensitive souls with a prime longing to be seen, to be acknowledged, and to just shed all the constraining layers of social expectation and formal behavior, like on the bridge of an intergalactic warship, or as a predator species on a hostile planet. And we just want to be ourselves, to put our socks up on the table and just be our fat reality, like this character in Dove's body positivity and gaming campaign. To be in an environment where we can frolic and be silly and even a bit goofy and giggle and chortle without the need for actual biting wit. To celebrate outward diversity of race and sexuality, even though we may be gravitating toward a bland, lightweight commonality of inane, emotionally incontinent tedium. That would be awesome, right? We want to see that on screen, irrespective of context, right? Piss off. What's missing here is the delight and charm and good old-fashioned solidity of an essential bit of irony. That sophisticated filtering that makes people charged and interesting and mercurial. The way of looking into a middle distance of ironic conjecture, of contemplating someone, sometimes witheringly under an ironic gaze, of saying something where the irony is apprehended and relished by one person, while a less guileless or cool third person doesn't clue into it. The ironic way in which mainstream guys will subtly quality control, filter out or sequester other guys. Subtly, but definitively. That many people find the idea of being brought into a particular social fold to be a kind of crappy proposition, and are quite happy with an element of removal or distance. That the idea of we're all just souls looking to connect under it all is just not the natural outlook or disposition of lots of people. And such perspectives and emotional yearning and expression in shows or films, wildly and ridiculously unsuited to it, comes across as mushy and sentimental and emotionally overindulgent and bores the tits off loads of folks, including loads who loved the original Predator and earlier serious iterations of Star Trek. Like McCoy says when some mystic offers to take away his pain ultimately belongs to him and is an intrinsic part of his identity, not something to be coaxed out and purged in emotional sharing sessions. Let's just say it for what it is. Entertainment culture is too feminized. And overly feminized emotional preoccupation and emphasis and framing and discourse has left entertainment feeling like a dull, wet blanket and been made out to seem not as one form of expression, but as the culminating ideal one as character state. And that sucks, because it isn't the culminating ideal state and form of comporting oneself, especially not in legacy franchises that these Gen Z writers had no part in dreaming up, creating, slaving over, building up a legacy fanbase for. What these writers and contemporary entertainment in general totally fails to understand is how to depict masculinity, in particular young masculinity on the screen, because they don't understand boys. The prevailing wisdom, which is wrong, is that boys operate with a kind of literalism, while girls and women have a more developed and richer emotional palette and way of interacting with each other and the world. If an older guy, especially one in some kind of mentoring role, starts to tease or riff on a younger guy, it's not because it's anything to do with power, it's the inverse. It carries with it a kind of affirmation. I'm bringing you closer in to a better rapport because I've apprehended and can acknowledge you're able to discern and appreciate me on a more relatable level. This kind of behavior and interactions, this kind of barbed banter, is a key part of male psychology. And Gen Z screenwriters absolutely suck in failing to understand how to depict this. Instead, they come across with what everyone now hates as a trope, which is a kind of shallow, grating snark that never lands properly, and is almost always dominated by the women anyway. If these Gen Z screenwriters could start to understand this stuff a little bit better, they might go a slight way towards turning things around and getting back the droves of young men who have said "see you later" and gone off to play games. The answer is not to turn the Predator into a histrionic, annoying pussy.